Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order for the City Council, City of Yuba City. First up on the agenda is roll call. Terrell?
Mayor Gill?
Here.
Vice Mayor Dukes?
Here.
Councilmember Buckland?
Here.
Councilmember Mon?
Here.
Councilmember Starkey?
Here. If you'd please rise for the invocation by our Vice Mayor, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Councilmember Tejman.
Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to meet on this Tuesday evening here in Yuba City to represent our citizens and to honor those who have shown special abilities, and we will honor them tonight. We thank you, Lord, for your presence and pray that you would give us wisdom and bless our time together. In your most holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Councilmember Mon?
Please join me in the pledge. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first thing up on the agenda is presentations and proclamations, and I believe this is the first time in a long time that we're able to honor the youth in our community for a change. And this has to do with Every Drop Counts coloring contest. And right there above you on the left-hand side is as a part of our Every Drop Counts water conservation campaign in the City of Yuba City. We called upon our youth in our community to illustrate the importance of conserving water. As part of this project, students and teachers were encouraged to learn and discuss the importance of water resources in our state and to think about the role that they play in protecting our water supply. So today, we'd like to recognize the winners of the 2014 Every Drop Counts coloring contest and thank them for their commitment to water conservation in our community. And contest winners from second grade, we got Marissa Chopie from Adventist Christian School. Is Marissa here? Marissa, raise your hand, okay. And I'll call you up here in a minute. Third grade, we've got Brendan Heinrich. And he's from the third grade Adventist Christian School. Brandon, are you here? There's Brandon. In fourth grade, we've got Isabella Lewis from King Avenue Elementary. Isabella? There she is. And from fifth grade, we've got Peyton McGinnis from Butte Vista Elementary School. Is Peyton here? Okay. And each winner today will receive a commemorative certificate, a Yuba City's Parks and Recreation voucher, which is from 1 year, from October this year to next year. You can come and get what you like. And believe it or not, an I Love Yuba City t-shirt that you can wear proudly. Would also like to recognize the schools and educators that make water conservation education a priority in the classroom. Do we have Tamara Clements here? Tamara, thank you for coming and appreciate everything you do. And from King Avenue, we got Sarah. Hi, Sarah. How are you? And Butte Vista, we got Amy Morrison. Hello. Okay. So at this point in time, I'm going to ask Marissa, Brandon, Isabella, and Peyton to come up to the front. Yep. We'll just come on up here, right here in the middle. Just come on and stand right here, smack in the front. There you guys go. Turn around. Smile for the cameras. Let me give you okay, first up, I've got Marissa. Marissa, where are you? There you are. So certificate to you, signed by myself as Cashville, Mayor of Yuba City, as well as a box with some goodies from our City of Yuba City and a t-shirt. And we want to thank you for taking the time out and coloring and doing this for the City of Yuba City. So here's the certificate. There's that. Brendan? What's that? Braden. Oh, I'm sorry. Braden. There you go. We've got a bag with the t-shirt as well. It says I Love Yuba City. Thank you. Isabella, here's a certificate to you as well. City goodies, pencils, and t-shirt for yourself as well. Certificate for yourself as well. And then a bag with the t-shirt of Yuba City. And from our entire city council here, it's a great honor to present to this award to you guys, this certificate. Keep up the good work, and ladies and gentlemen, this is our future for the city of Yuba City. Thank you guys. Thank you. I've also got some certificates here for the schools, for King Avenue School itself. There you go. Thank you very much for yourself to the school. Thank you.
We don't think that mic's working.
Cash, it's not working, is it?
Yeah, I don't think the mic.
Oh, okay.
We've got the certificate going to Adventist Christian School. And then we've got Butte Vista School. Thank you guys very much. Okay, next up is my great pleasure to present a certificate to Seroptimus for 85 years of service. The Seroptimus International of Marysville, Yuba City is celebrating 85 years of service to Yuba City communities. And I guess, Amarjeet, who's our president? Cherie is? Perfect. Well, come on up here, Cherie. I should have you here. All right. Let me give you this proclamation on behalf of the entire city council.
Okay.
While it's all written here with all the accomplishments you've done, but I'm going to go ahead and read the shorter version of it. Yeah, absolutely. The Seroptimus International Marysville, Yuba City is celebrating 85 years of service to Yuba City communities. Seroptimus International is a global volunteer movement with a network of about 80,000 club members in 130 countries. Notably, community projects for Seroptimus International Marysville, Yuba City include 1947 providing food for the children's ward of London Hospital, England. 1956 set up a flood disaster program after 1955 Christmas flood. 1968 planted 50 cherry trees and 20 Japanese maple trees around Alice Lake to replace trees given by the Japanese American Citizen League that were uprooted by vandals during World War II. 1982 began a long-term service project upgrading and remodeling Casa de Esperanza. 1995 contributed $10,000 to the SART Sexual Assault Response Team at Rideout Hospital. In 2006 began the Girls on the Run program to teach self-esteem and life skills to girls aged between 8 and 11. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Cash Gill, Mayor of the City of Yuba City, on behalf of the entire City Council, congratulate the members of Seroptimus International Marysville, Yuba City for their 85th anniversary of service to our community. Congratulations. Keep up the good work.
Well, there's many people that have gone before me. As I'm honored to be the president this year in this 85th year, and the leadership that we have had, that long history of the Yuba City Marysville women that have made all this possible. But our group just continues to grow and contribute to our community, which just makes it better.
Congratulations.
Come on, Amarjeet, stay. Michelle?
We got more to talk about.
Ricky's staying. Well, in that case, we should probably all leave.
Okay. Okay, next up is public communication. You are welcome and encouraged to participate in this meeting. Public comment is taken on items listed on the agenda when they are called. Public comments on items not listed on the agenda will be heard at this time. Comments on controversial items may be limited, and large groups are encouraged to select represented to express their opinions in the group. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to comment on items that are not on the agenda at this point in time? Okay. If not, we'll move to item number 3, which is written requests. Members of the public submitting written requests at least 24 hours prior to the meeting will normally be allowed 5 minutes to speak. Cheryl, do we have any written requests?
No requests were received.
Okay. Item number 4 is appearance of interested citizens. Members of the public may address the city council on items of interest that are within the city's jurisdiction. Individuals addressing general comments are encouraged to limit their statements to 3 minutes. Okay. Anyone hear from the public? Nope. Consent calendar. All members listed in the consent calendar are considered to be routine and can be acted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items prior to the time City Council votes on the motion unless members of the council, staff, or public request specific items to be discussed removed from the consent calendar for individual action. Anyone from the council wishes to have any items discussed separately? Anyone from the public?
I move to approve.
Okay, we've got a motion by Councilmember Ma and a second by Councilmember Starkey. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 8 is a wastewater treatment facility permit exceedance presentation by Michael.
Is that on? Not working? The light on? Light needs to be on? Okay. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. It's with great pleasure I give you this presentation about the wastewater treatment plant compliance history, past, present, and future. A little background about the wastewater treatment facility. It was built in 2 phases. The first phase was completed in 1972, which is just primary treatment. Very simple. The second phase, which we'll get into more detail a little bit later in the presentation, included secondary treatment, the organic treatment of the facility. It underwent a kind of a major expansion in 2005. And so this right here is where we're talking about the secondary clarifiers with the recent exceedances the facility's experienced. That clarifier right there at the bottom left, what we call the east clarifier, is the one that we're having issue with. It was identified as having problems when we were going through the facility in our preventative maintenance program that we've implemented a few years ago. You can also, back up. You can also see that big green area right there. That's the space for the planned 4th secondary clarifier. So the plant's already been plumbed, the equipment, electricals, kind of everything's in place, anticipating that clarifier to be installed. Okay. So before we start talking about the exceedances, probably should talk a little bit about just how the secondary process works. The tank that you see right here with all the bubbles in it, that's what we call our aeration tank, aeration basin. For the city of Yuba City, that's 1.8 million gallons in size. And what it contains is billions and billions of bugs. So many, in fact, that the operators on a daily basis will figure out the weight of those bugs. And depending upon the time of the year, in the colder months, we may have 50,000 pounds of those bugs in that basin, 25 tons of living, breathing material. So you see these little bubbles right here. That's the air that we feed those bugs because they're breathing. The compressors that we have at the facility, you might consider those the lungs of the plant. They provide about 10 tons of oxygen a day that's consumed by those bugs. The wastewater going into the basin is the food. So on an average day, we may have 30,000 pounds of food going into this basin. So we have a very large living organism that the operations task is tasked with every day to keep alive and healthy. So when you think about yourself, your stomach gets upset, we have this on a very major scale. So, and it shows up in secondary clarifier performance. So, next slide. This is a settleometer. It's a lab beaker, but it illustrates what a secondary clarifier does. And in this case, we've got a very nice interface right here. This is not human waste down here. What that is all the bugs that the secondary clarifiers are collecting. We don't want to waste those. We want to put them back in the system so they could do more work. What we have up here is the treated effluent. We want to collect that, disinfect it, and then we can discharge it to 2 different locations through to the Feather River or to our disposal ponds located on the other side of the Feather River. When the plant is upset, there's many different ways that these bugs can escape this container. It could be hydraulic. It can be conditions causing gas to build up and it'll float to the top. It can be different kinds of bugs that proliferate in the system and which does not cause that to settle. And they can escape the container that way. So when we have a settleable solids exceedance, it's these little guys getting out of the container. So these little guys are found in nature, like in your biology class from high school, pond water, parameciums, that kind of thing. So we've just taken Mother Nature in this plant and just sped it up greatly. So I went back to the year 2000. The year 2000 was kind of a key date because that's when the regional board started really looking at violations of discharge permits. And I highlighted this dark line right here between 2000 and 2007. 2007 was a key year in the permitting of the wastewater treatment facility. Like I said before, we have two discharge locations. We have to the ponds and to the river. Prior to 2007, our effluent limits in their discharge permit were very lenient. And so when the plant was going to go into a condition where we were going to exceed river standards, we would go down and switch to the ponds and avoid a violation altogether. In 2007, the regional board took that away and essentially made both discharge points to the ponds and to the river the same. So that tool that the operators had at their disposal to avoid and manage that risk of a permit exceedance was taken away. But when I prepared this table, what struck me was that even regarding that tool being taken away, you can see how well the operations staff has been managing a lot of these test parameters. And what that tells me is, for one, staff has been really on it. The other thing is our maintenance program, because we focused on the contact base, and we focused on these exceedances with the chlorine, total call from pH, what we're doing with the maintenance and stuff is paying off. The problem is this settleable solids right here continues to be a problem. And even without that resource of being able to go to the ponds, when we have an incident, we're going to see it in our as an exceedance. So risk management. The discharge permit conditions, we talked about that with the change in 2007. The asset condition assessment program, this is really paying off for us because this facility, we're looking under the hood. I was here a couple years ago asking to clean some digesters, and that was an opportunity to get in the tanks, look at the concrete, look at the structure, and get a good assessment of what we need to work on. And if you can't manage it, you can't observe it, you can't deal with it, we don't want to have any surprises. The secondary clarifiers was the last treatment process in that plant that we started taking down to take a look. And it was that east clarifier was the first one we started taking down when we found the damage. So we were trying to be proactive. We found some damage. We still haven't been able to inspect the other primary clarifiers. But the asset condition assessment program is, we're being proactive with the maintenance. We're doing it on our terms, and it's paying off. And there's the staff efforts. I was really proud of staff, the laboratory operations, maintenance, electrical, that after this latest exceedance, they got together and to see if there's anything else that they could do a little more proactively, react a little bit sooner in the process. And it was amazing when they came together what they came up with. And so they're working on SOPs right now and trying to implement some of these little things so that we can manage things in the short term until we get to the long-term solutions. So the secondary clarifier remedies, in the short term, the operations team is going to increase the frequency of monitoring. There's some things that they can do just to keep a little bit closer tabs on the sludge blankets and how the secondaries are performing. And so they have just recently, like I said, reviewed current processes and they're tweaking things. They keep a pretty tight, watch on things. So there's not a lot of room for improvement, but they're chasing it. So they're doing a good job with that. The long term, a fourth secondary clarifier needs to be constructed. We need to have a fourth clarifier so we can take these clarifiers offline on a routine basis. The thought being we take one down once a year. So every 3 years we get in, we look at it, we look at the concrete, look at the structure, we look for cracks, we look for anything and deal with these problems when they're small and not when they're big. And with that, you can see that here's the site of the fourth clarifier. That's our aeration basin off the left. And with that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Questions from council members?
To the mayor.
Yes.
Mike, part of driving the exceedance is this driven by the volume that's just coming into the plant alone?
You know, the volume over the past 6-7 years has really remained the same. Flow-wise, organic loading-wise, solid-wise, it's really kind of just plateaued. And with the drought, actually, hydraulically, it's been a little bit less. We've seen the conservation efforts kind of trickle through the whole system.
Okay, yeah, because I mean, just kind of wondering, as we've talked in the past about, maybe taking one of our larger or our largest employer and maybe putting it to an off-peak, delivery time for you guys.
Right,
so,
right.
So you could take that in at that volume in at a different time and maybe relieve some of the pressure on that system.
Right. We looked at that. We looked at that last year, and there's some things that would solve, and then there's some problems that it would create. And the problems that it would create is that wastewater needs oxygen in it, and so when wastewater is just sitting around, it turns septic, and now you've got a real problem. And so we've looked at equalization basins uptown at the headworks of the plant, and but the process controls that the operations staff has in place right now is really adequate. It's just a secondary settling that they just need a little bit more capacity there. So.
And I just want to let you know, in the last couple of years, probably the last 3 years, it's been a remarkable change, just in the southern portion of Yuba City, just with everything with that plant's presence there. You've done a fantastic job mitigating all of those, the emissions and everything coming from that.
Yeah, there's been a lot of improvements.
So
Yeah,
thank
lots.
you.
Michael, is this our second fine, third fine within the last year, 2 years?
We had 2 incidences in last November and December. There were 2 separate incidences. When we took the third secondary down and we found the damage, we were trying to assess it with photographs, and it takes a while to clean it and stuff. So we had a good record so that we could talk to engineering firms to get that rake arm fixed. And that's when hydraulically we started having issues with the 2 remaining clarifiers online. And we had the settleable solids exceedance then. In December, we had a freezing incident, and I received the Bill Fuller's, hey, we got some cold weather coming in, and so staff went out, they checked the plant, they insulated chemical feed lines, and we prepared for it. Unfortunately, a small check valve froze, and it broke a sodium bisulfite line, and so that's where the chlorine exceedances came from. So there were 2 separate instances. The fines are per parameter per day, and a $3,000 is the minimum fine. So which they could have gone a lot higher, but so.
To the mayor.
Yes.
So what was the total fines that we've had, say, over the past 2 to 3 years, or do you have that figure?
The past 2-3 years, I think on that one slide, I mean, if you want to back up to that table, right here. This, well, let's see, since this is 2011 to 2014, last 3 years. This year we had 1 settleable solid. This diazonon is interesting. This one here, our diazonon limit in our effluent is detection. And the analytical techniques can get down to 0.1 parts per billion. And our detection, I had it run twice to confirm the first detection, was 0.25, 0.2. So to give you an example is, if somebody takes a teaspoon of diazonon up at Stabler and puts it in the collection system, we're going to detect it down there. And there's no way that we could have avoided that. So we're kind of at the mercy of what comes to the plant. This last year with this the secondary clarifier going down and trying to fix it, and then the freezing event, we got 11 out of those 2 months right there. And then before that, we've had a couple. The total coliform's been really good. The staff is routinely rotating the contact basins, cleaning it. The pH was a direct result of the chlorine, the chemical line break. Otherwise, our pH has been outstanding. Actually, the new aeration system, we're not using any chemical, which is saving us money. And of course, the chlorine right there. So, we can handle these settleable solids issues. We've got a pretty good grasp on complying with that discharge permit.
I guess my question on this is the fact that it looks like $156,000 total there that we've paid out in fines, but the fix is $4 to $5 million, and not that any of these exceedances are good, but to go out and spend $4 to $5 million versus what we're paying to take care of these things
Right.
as they go,
Uh-huh.
to me, it's as long as we're doing a good job of trying to mitigate the problems that we have, that still not a bad solution.
Right. The staff has been doing really well. This $30,000 right here, I tried to get the regional board to let us apply that to the repair of the rake arm, and they wouldn't allow me to do that. So I tried. The thing is other communities have just continued paying these fines like this, and like I said, they're mandatory minimum penalties of $3,000. The regional board can ramp it up to get us to move forward. So.
All right. Thank you for the report.
Yes. I would suspect that if we continue to let this thing go and the fines are going to get bigger and bigger, since we're not doing something to fix it.
Yeah, the regional.
Anticipate that would happen.
Yeah, the regional board likes to see progress. Moving forward. You got a plan. You got an action plan. You got a timeline.
What kind of timeline do you think we're looking at to get this fixed?
Right now, I would say we need to move on it, because if the east clarifier that has the damage goes down and we only have 2 clarifiers in the ground, we're going to be bulking and seeding every day for a long period of time, and it'll make that 156,000 over 14 years look minuscule. So I think we need to start moving forward with it.
Thank you.
So.
Mr. Mayor, just to add something to Mike's presentation, is Public Works has indicated to me that they'll also be bringing in a third-party engineer consultant to look at the recommendation that's been made and just review it to ensure that, given this point in time, to reaffirm that that's in the best interest of proceeding.
Great, thank you. We also have a question, speaker card from Pat Miller, who has a question. Pat, if you want to come to the podium and state your name and try to get your question answered for you.
Pat Miller, and he did a tremendous job of presenting the issue and answered several of my questions, so I appreciate that. Basically, what I'm hearing is the equipment's wearing out. We're not at capacity. Is that correct?
We're not at capacity.
Okay. Do you have an estimate of when we would be at capacity? What will Lincoln East do when it is developed?
Well, we're not at capacity in the sense that we're rated at 10.5 MGD average flow, and we're treating about 6. But the issue is, when we get into these maintenance that they have the redundancy process, keep the equipment good operation. Sorry. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So the plant's rated at 10.5 MGD, and currently we're discharging about 6 MGD treated effluent. So we're about 60% of capacity. But these process units, they need to have something so that you can take things offline and inspect them and repair them and look at them and that kind of thing.
How old are these units? Were they installed? I think that was in the staff report. Yeah, I can't remember.
The east and west secondaries were built in 1975, and then we added the third secondary clarifier, which is the bigger one, to the south. And I believe that was completed in 1995 or 96. But it's in the staff report.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat. Okay, this one here is just for note and file. So next item is item number 9, funding for the Union Pacific Railroad right-of-way environmental investigation activities. Diana.
And I must recuse myself from this.
Okay.
An interest. Yeah, I'm on the railroad. I have an interest in that.
Diana, you're up.
Good evening. For the last several years, the city has been working with Union Pacific right of way to evaluate acquisition of the railroad right of way. In September 2013, we executed a contract with Geosyntech Consultants, which is a geotechnical engineering firm, to help us with a Phase 1 environmental site assessment. They completed that. The Union Pacific Railroad as well did some additional studies to determine the remediation required. Prior to the city moving forward with developing a contract with Union Pacific, we need to do some additional studies to be able to develop a soil management plan, do some groundwater sampling, and do some additional soil sampling and testing, just to make sure that we have a good estimate as to the quantity of soil that needs to be remediated, the extent of any groundwater contamination that may be generated from the site, and then also come up with a management plan as to how the remediation would take place. Would the soil be hauled offsite? Would it be capped in place somewhere within the right of way? So with that, staff is requesting a supplemental appropriation of unallocated road fund in the amount of $80,000 to the Union Pacific account. The supplemental appropriation will cover the contract amendment with Geosyntech, staff time, and then also costs with our attorney. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Diana on this matter?
Through the mayor.
Yes.
So just kind of in layman's term, this is just to protect us, that we're not just accepting their report that this is what it is. We want to confirm for ourselves that this is the real contamination and
Correct.
what was to protect us. I think it's $80,000 well spent when you're dealing with contaminants.
Great. Any other questions?
Actually, it's only 50, right?
Yeah, 50 for Geosyntech and then the additional funds.
Better deal yet.
Okay. If there's not any questions, if there's not any questions, what's the pleasure of the council?
I'll move for, and I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Let's call Councilmember Buckland back.
We're doing fine without it.
We're doing great.
I thought we did pretty good.
Saved $30,000.
Yeah. Okay. Item number 10, SCADA radio system improvements. Michael.
Yeah, good evening again. The item you have before you is a SCADA radio improvement request. The little bit of background: the city uses SCADA, which is computer controlling of reservoirs, lift stations, facility, both water and wastewater plants. We use SCADA to capture efficiencies. We turn the town center fountain on and off remotely now, so we don't have to send somebody out. So we've been using SCADA since the early 90s. And what this project's doing is we did an assessment of all the antennas and the radio communications between the remote sites and the facilities. Currently there's 3 lift stations that do not have SCADA connection, so we do not know remotely just where the water levels are in the collection system. Some of the parts are being obsolete, and so it's replacement of some obsolete equipment. We can no longer find parts for. It's adding antennas to improve communication sight lines, so we have better, reliable, faster communications. There's times when the system will go down and we'll lose communications with a reservoir when we're filling it, and so this upgrade is to bolster our reliability, communication speed, and to get all the lift stations online, so the operators at the wastewater plant can see what's going out in the collection system, so that we can prevent sanitary sewer overflows and manage that risk. So the city did an assessment for the radios, and that work was done. There was a scope of work prepared. We got 3 bids. Tesco was the low bidder, and with that, the staff recommends that the authorize the purchase of radio equipment and professional services to Tesco Controls in the amount of $78,500 plus a $10,000 contingency in the findings of best interest of the city, and authorize the chief financial officer to make supplemental appropriations of $44,500 from the CIP lift station improvement to account 8120 equipment, and from unallocated water reserve fund to fund water treatment plant equipment account. And with that, I will be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Michael?
This would help eliminate, like you mentioned, the overflows of sanitary sewer into the Gilsizer drainage and different things that have happened in the past, which could also cause us to be faced with fines and so on.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's a good investment to prevent some of those fines in the future. With that, I'll make a motion to approve the item.
I'll
Okay.
second.
Got a motion second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Michael. Item number 11 is classification changes to the positions within Parks and Recreation and Community Development Department. Natalie.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and council members. Oh, it's not. Is it on?
You just got to speak
Recording.
really
Okay.
loud.
Sorry. Okay, so I'll speak louder. I'm requesting that the City Council adopt a resolution consolidating the Recreation Supervisor classification into a flexibly staffed position that would be a 1-2 position. An outside consultant did a thorough analysis of this classification series and recommended the collapsing of this classification. Staff supports this recommendation and analysis. The second request is to replace the budgeted senior planner with the principal planner position. The principal planner classification will allow the city to cast a wider net for qualified candidates and to ensure that the appropriate operation needs are met. So at this time, I respectfully request you adopt a resolution approving these classification changes, and I'll take any questions that you may have as well.
Okay, questions from the city council members?
Great presentation.
Okay.
And I move the recommendation.
Before we do that, Mr. Stark, we've got Pat Miller who has a comment on this item or a question.
Pat Miller again, and I know you want to go home and watch the ball game, so I'll make it quick. I just question the wisdom of increasing salaries when you guys, the city still has furloughs and they owe a $55.3 million to CalPERS. So, you should be looking to save money wherever you can.
Absolutely, and thank you for that, Pat. And I think to answer your question, I think we do take a look at every place that we can save money. So when we take a look at some of these positions, and you try to cast a net or you try to put in an application, and you get not very many qualified applicants. So you take a look and saying, okay, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? Are we within the markets? Do we have the right people in the right places? Do we have the number one person? Do we have the number two person? So that's where we take a look as an overall. Staff makes its recommendations, but as all of us as council members, we dissect that information pretty thoroughly and come back and take a look at it. But we do appreciate your comments, and that's something that we continue to look at every dollar that we spend. So with that, we have a motion by Councilmember Starkey.
I'll second that.
And second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 12, organizational changes within the office of the city manager in the Department of Parks and Recreation.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, good evening. So within your city manager's office, you've had a vacant assistant city manager position for about a year now. So this has provided the opportunity to look back, see what functions, how they've been spread across the department and across the executive group over this past year. And there are several recommendations that are coming out of that. First is the deletion of the assistant city manager position. And I have to tell you that this is a recommendation that's been given a lot of consideration. There are two ways to look at this. There's a short term and a long term. I can say that in the short term that I recommend taking this action to you. I can also say that in the long term, best interest of this community, there will be a time when you want to fill this position again. This city has been very successful with regard to its employee base. Your executive team, as an example, has an average tenure of 15 years with the city. And with that 15 years in each individual, on average, comes in an incredible amount of just institutional knowledge about what's going on here. And I believe that we're able to do a lot more with less people because of that knowledge that carries on over time. That being said, with a city manager position, with time, transitions occur. And to have an assistant city manager in that role for the city of the future would be of benefit to this community in the long term. So I'll just leave it at that. With the assistant city manager position change, the removal of that position, it's recommended that a current position within the city manager's office assume certain additional responsibilities. Your economic development manager would increase scope to include public affairs, legislative affairs, and intergovernmental affairs, which is a fairly broad spectrum. That position would be retitled Economic Growth and Public Affairs Manager. It would also include the restoration of the executive assistant position that's historically been a job within the city manager's office that in the last few years has been filled on a part-time basis. The other department that would be affected by the change would be Parks and Recreation. Parks and Recreation assumed oversight of animal services in 2013. The Parks and Recreation Director serves as the executive director of the Setter Animal Services Authority. Historically, within that department, there had been two mid-manager positions, one that oversaw parks, one that oversaw recreation. With the flattening of the organization over the years, those two positions were eliminated. As a result, you have a director who oversees several staff, four recreation supervisors and a park supervisor. What's being proposed as part of this is this department be retitled Community Services Department in recognition of the additional responsibilities with animal control, and also bring a position in at the mid-management level that would be a person to help actively work with our field folks, not only overseeing parks, also overseeing the recreation, and also assuming facility responsibility for the city. Now, facilities, that would effectively make a buildings and grounds function. You hear about that a lot in the university setting. That would be here. So not only would this building be the responsibility of the Community Services Department, but also the landscaping around it. It's currently serviced well, I would say, by our Public Works Department. However, our Public Works Department has a broad scope of responsibility, especially with the uniting of the Utilities Department several years ago. So you have water, wastewater, streets, engineering, and fleet maintenance all within Public Works. So this would take facilities out and put it over within the Community Services Department. It would also move responsibility for landscape maintenance district oversight, which is your residential areas and a lot of your medians, which is done by contract services. And as we know, contractors will do as good of a job usually as their the attentiveness to oversight of those contracts. And this would put extra attention in that area. Finally, it's expected that this would free up additional responsibility for that director role to take on special projects from the city manager's office. There are savings that come from this change. And so I guess in the grand scheme of things, to Pat Miller's point earlier, sometimes there are instances where a little more money goes out the door, and there are instances such as this where a little more money will be retained by the city if the city council agrees with this recommendation. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Questions for city manager?
I appreciate all the thought you put into this.
Thank you.
Okay, got a motion?
I'll second.
Second?
I just want to make a comment. About a week ago, something near a week ago, we had an incident where an elevator became inoperable. I believe Ricky Schaefer brought that information to me. The responsiveness of our director in that division, he was on vacation. I must say, I believe he reflected to me that he was on the North Shore of Oahu at the time and managed to get that elevator repaired or get service coming out that day at the house, the old Little John house. So when we look at these aren't positions that are 40 hours a week. A lot of these folks they're serving the city 24 hours a day, and even when they go off on vacation. So I just think it's just one of those testaments to how far Yuba City will go to serve this community. So thank you, Brad.
And I also want to echo that, Steve. That it's nice that at one point in time you kind of flattened the city structure a little bit, and at this point in time, making the recommendation not to fill that position. But I agree with you that there's going to come a point in time where we are going to have to take a look at filling that role of the assistant city manager, because right now things are a little bit slow, so you can juggle and wear many hats. But it comes to a point in time where, obviously, from our council standpoint of view, we ask you to do more for less. And obviously, when we do that, just like our troops or all of our employees, they can do that for a little while, but pretty soon it starts to wear out on you. So, there comes a day that we would anticipate that when that time comes to come back with a recommendation, obviously based upon budgeting and finances and workload, to come back to the council when that warrants for that position to be reopened again. So with that, I'll go ahead, and we've got a motion and a second, and all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 13 is business from City Council. City Council reports. Councilmember Buckland.
Quite a bit going on in the last 2.5 or so weeks. Attended the Sutter County Literacy program over at the library. In fact, Supervisor Stan Cleveland was there at that event also, along with some other elected officials. Just a great recognition of how much that program affects our community. Attended a mayor's brunch, getting a bunch of old mayors together and sitting around the table. I think just was a great reflection of what this community has done over the past about 30 years, just through the city council and that group of individuals, and how much vision there has been moving forward with our community. I had just a very short meeting with the Chamber of Commerce as they move forward with planning for next September to have some type of a festival. We don't know what that festival is. It'll be a 3-day event. We have no idea what the name of it will be yet, but it will be a festival right around our harvest, and hopefully within, I believe, the second week of September, somewhere right in there. Also attended the SACOG and West Sacramento's launch of Code for America grant, which is going to be focusing on ag consumption as related to our region. Much of this will have to do with our rural programs, how ag interfaces with the urban environment, and what those consumption rates are. There's going to be 2 fellows coming in to put this program together through this grant process. They'll be in the area for about a year, and what it's going to require are many government agencies within the region, within the SACOG region, opening their codes for their data on their computers to be able to access much of what goes on in our community. Also got to walk this last Saturday for Pink October with Team Nina, but I'm going to leave that to the mayor to give more of that. Attended the SACOG GRAPPA meeting, which is a government relations and public affairs meeting. The crux of that conversation dealt right around Senate Bill 674 that's over to the governor for signature, and that relates to CEQA exemptions, minimal CEQA exemptions for infill work that is to occur in future for some of the city building or municipal building projects. And then we also discussed some of the funding criteria for future projects, and looking at about 20 different criteria. And part of that is we're going to be adding a public safety component, a measurable public safety component to the big projects that will be funded out of SACOG in the future. That's all I have.
Great. Councilmember Vermont.
My week was a little bit slower. Attended some of the same meetings. The main meeting we had was the Housing Authority. We're working on regional housing authority. Sutter County Housing Authority has been growing and becoming a regional housing authority. We've added Nevada and Colusa in the last few years, and now we're looking at adding Yuba County. So it'll truly be a regional housing authority. There's a lot of specific issues that you need to learn. So it by regionalizing it, we have a lot of specialties that we able to access and run the agency a lot more efficient with fewer people. So looking forward to that. That's all I have to report.
Councilmember Starkey.
I don't really have anything to report. It was very slow. I belong in, but I would like to schedule an appointment with you. Whatever your title is, at your satellite office in Milwaukee. So, maybe next week, Wednesday afternoon.
Vice Mayor Dukes.
Got a couple items. Was able to attend the first Thursday dinner, which this month happened to be on the third Thursday of the month, but attended with Mr. Krager and myself and members from the FRACMed, the Feather River Air Quality Management District Board to discuss the cap and trade funds and how they are going to be spent in our region. Attended two Feather River Air Quality Management District meetings, one last week to look at the new facility that the agency is looking at purchasing, and then the meeting yesterday where the board approved the purchase of the building up on Washington Street, just off of Live Oak Boulevard. And then attended the Chamber Business Connection breakfast, which interestingly enough, at the same time, Ricky, I used the city's Comcade app to send the information to Brad also. So I'm not sure which one he got first, whether it was yours or mine, but well, he's smiling, so I don't think he's going to tell us which. But and then last Saturday had the pleasure of attending the ribbon cutting and grand opening of the 162nd Air National Guard unit at Beale Air Force Base. This is their headquarters is now going to be on the base. The Air National Guard is actually a state agency. There's also the Air Reserve, which is a federal, and then of course the active duty. And what the Air Force is trying to do is to blend and put all of those operations together on bases rather than having them spread out all over the place. And so they were able to take advantage of some funds that were available actually about 3 years early, and we're able to build this new facility out at the base, and it will be housing that new unit to serve our community. And they moved from North Highlands, and that actually by moving, that's going to save them about $3 million over the next 5 years in operating costs. So it's a $6 million project that will have a quick payback just by moving and having a new facility.
Wow. Okay, Ricky and John, I know you guys are looking for a festival for next year and don't know what to call it and don't know where you're going to have it at, and you want it to 3 days. You know,
I think we should
you do know or you don't know? Okay. Did you want to get up to the podium and did you want to get to the podium and did you want to get to the podium so people at home can kind of hear what you're talking about? No, I mean since we've kind of opened it up a little bit. Got 3 minutes.
we call it the Crow Festival.
Since I think John was saying he didn't know anything about it, but we figured.
Well, no, John is actually, not to correct John, because he's absolutely correct. What we did, we have been working on this since last January. And so we do have what is a much broader plan. What John participated in, the council member, and we were so grateful, and we left kind of that a little, we didn't present all that information because we were looking for stakeholders' feedback. We want to make sure that what we're looking at, what we've been designing, actually is going to meet the needs of those who are going to be participating and find this to be a key event for the community. And so without putting too much in front and saying this is where we're going with this, we really wanted to have some fresh perspective from each of them in regards to what they felt were key elements. Inclusive in what we've been looking at is actually, it's gone through, and the title is kind of the running joke name because we haven't landed on the official title. It's gone from as holding places, the California Dirt to Dinner and everything in between, which is not the name. Nobody, see, we don't say these things in public. We don't want anybody to start using them.
Well, there's nobody listening other than
Yeah,
just a few
it's-
people here and a couple thousand watching at home, so we'll just keep it amongst ourselves.
It's so the title. We actually have a large group of marketers coming together, and we're doing a brainstorming session in regards to getting the right name that's going to reach out. We're having a 501c3 created around this event. It has many purposes. Well, it has a significant purpose, one purpose, but a couple of different ways that that's going to be executed, and it will be a driver for us to not only to increase traffic through the community and use it for an event that's going to stretch for the week prior and a week
So is it an
post.
ag festival or is it a prune festival or?
Not prune festival. No, it's not a prune festival. Think of everything from supply. Why we called it to the Dirt to Dinner is because think of everything related to ag from the time from supplier
Okay.
and big farm equipment all the way through to producer to plate. Everything in between, every aspect.
Ag
But
based.
then going on to from the foodie population and the wine to the music to ag innovation, and we're using some very unique items to create an event within the event to attract kind of an international market. So there's some very unique things about this event that you haven't seen before that have been in development for quite some time, and now we are ready to start kind of inviting people into that. So
Great. Fantastic.
it's been in development for a long time.
Great.
And that's
Thank
where
you
we're at.
for that.
And to add to that, there will be an invitation to
Yes.
partners that
Yes,
will be going
very much
out
so. Yes.
very shortly.
But
And
you said you didn't know much about it.
well,
Yes.
you know,
That's-
in the interest of time, I was trying
Okay.
to make it as brief as I possibly could, but now you brought Ricky in and gave the longhand version.
That's
Everything is up for
Great.
discussion now, but
Thank you, John.
we'd love to have you involved and State Farm involved. And
yes.
Good job.
Everybody. Thank you, Ricky.
So if everybody can be in on part of the secret of knowing that that is a working title name, please let's not start it.
Well, great. Dirt to Fork in 2015.
The event for right now.
Dirt to Dinner.
and
Well,
everything
thank you.
in between.
Well, thank you very much for that. Like John mentioned, obviously this is Pink October, which is always near and dear to all of us, especially dear and near to myself since my wife has been battling breast cancer. So we've had second year for the Larry Giveke Caring Foundation that we had a team, and this year had about 75 participants that walked with us, wore black shirts with pink ribbons, and then hats off to Larry Giveke and his family that do a wonderful job for this community. And so I guess we should be all wearing pink. So our next meeting, we'll make sure that everybody on this council wears pink for Pink October. Also had the opportunity to attend the United Way Wine Soiree. So that was a great event, great cause for our community, and I believe they raised a lot of dollars. That'll go back to nonprofit organizations that they divvy out. So hats off to Bob Harlan and Tom Walters and all that group for doing a fantastic job. What else do I got here? Oh, for those of you that are wondering, top of the third, Giants 2-0. So with that, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you.